large because neither India or Pakistan is obligated to provide information on their nuclear arsenals, so their extent remains largely unknown. 5. 2. NITAL assume that either a firestorm or conflagration will occur after each detonation of the weapons, and the amount of black carbon inserted into the atmosphere from the two outcomes will be equivalent and/or for profound extent. Winking sad smiley. 5. In Hiroshima in 1945, it is predicted that the firestorm released 1,000 times more energy than was released during the nuclear explosion. 6. Such a large area being burned would release large amounts of black carbon into the atmosphere. The amount released ranges from 16.1 tg if all weapons were 15 kt or less to 36.6 tg for all 100 kt weapons. 5. For the 15 kt and 100 kt range of weapons, the researchers modeled global precipitation reductions of 15% to 30%. Temperature reductions between 4.8 K, and ocean temperature decreases of 1 K to 3 K. 5. If all weapons used were 50 kt or more, Hadley cell circulation would be disrupted and cause a 50% decrease in precipitation in the American Midwest. Net primary productivity, NPP, for oceans decreases from 10% to 20% for the 15 kt and 100 kt scenarios respectively, while land NPP decreases between 15% and 30%. Particularly affected are mid-latitude agricultural regions in the United States and Europe, experiencing 25 to 50% reductions in NPP. 5. As predicted by other literature, once the black carbon is removed from the atmosphere after 10 years, temperatures and NPP will return to normal. 5. 2021. Coupe et al. Report the simulation of a El Niño effect lasting several years after 6 nuclear scenarios ranging from 5 to 150 tg sit under the SISMWACM-4 model. They term the change a nuclear Niño and describe various changes in the ocean currents. 141, 2022. According to a peer-reviewed study published in the journal Nature Food in August 2022, 142, a full-scale nuclear war between the United States and Russia, which together hold more than 90% of the world's nuclear weapons, would kill 360 million people directly and more than 5 billion indirectly by starvation during a nuclear winter. 143, 144. Another paper published that year, from the Tohoku University Earth Science scholar Kunio Kaio, compared the impact of nuclear winter scenarios on marine and terrestrial animal life with that of historical extinction events. Kaio estimated that a minor nuclear war, which he defined as a nuclear exchange between India and Pakistan or an event of equivalent magnitude, would cause extinctions of 10-20% of species on its own, while a major nuclear war, defined as a nuclear exchange between United States and Russia, would cause the extinctions of 40 to 50% animal species, which is comparable to some of the big 5 mass extinction events. For comparison, what he considered the most likely scenario of anthropogenic climate change, with 3 degrees Celsius, 5.4 degrees Fahrenheit, of warming by 2103.8 degrees Celsius, 6.8 degrees Fahrenheit, by 2500, would end around 12-14% animal species extinct under the same methodology. 145, 2023. Since 2023, the U.S. National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine has established an independent study on potential environmental effects of nuclear war. The aim is to evaluate all research on nuclear winter, and the final report will be issued in 2024. 146. Criticism and debate. The five major and largely independent underpinnings that the nuclear winter concept has and continues to receive criticism over are regarded as SAD Smiley 133, 147, would cities readily firestorm, and if so how much soot would be generated. Atmospheric longevity, with the quantities of soot assumed in the models remain in the atmosphere for as long as projected or would far more soot precipitate as black rain much sooner. Timing of events. How reasonable is it for the modeling of firestorms or war to commence in late spring or summer? This is done in almost all US Soviet nuclear winter papers, thereby giving rise to the largest possible degree of modeled cooling. Darkness and opacity. How much light blocking effect the assumed quality of the soot reaching the atmosphere would have. 147. Lofting. How much soot would be lofted into the stratosphere. 133. While the highly popularized initial 1983 TIPS one-dimensional model forecasts were widely reported and criticized in the media, in part because every later model predicts far less of its apocalyptic level of cooling. 148. Most models continue to suggest that some deleterious global cooling would still result, under the assumption that a large number of fires occurred in the spring or summer. 110. 149. Starley L. Thompson's less primitive mid-1980s three-dimensional model, which notably contained the very same general assumptions, led him to coin the term nuclear autumn to more accurately describe the climate results of soot in this model, in an on-camera interview in which he dismisses the earlier apocalyptic models. 150. A major criticism of the assumptions that continue to make these model results possible appeared in the 1987 book Nuclear War Survival Skills, NWSS, a civil defense manual by Cresson Kearney for the Oak Ridge National Laboratory. 151. According to the 1988 publication, An Assessment of Global Atmospheric Effects of a Major Nuclear War, Kearney's criticisms were directed at the excessive amount of soot that the modelers assumed would reach the stratosphere. Kearney cited a Soviet study that modern cities would not burn as firestorms, as most flammable city items would be buried under non-combustible rubble, and FAFTF's study included a massive overestimate on the size and extent of non-urban wildfires that would result from a nuclear war. 12. The TIPS authors responded that, amongst other things, they did not believe target planners would intentionally blast cities into rubble, but instead argued fires would begin in relatively undamaged suburbs when nearby sites were hit, and partially conceded his point about non-urban wildfires. 12. Dr. Richard D. Small, Director of Thermal Sciences at the Pacific Sierra Research Corporation, similarly disagreed strongly with the model assumptions, in particular the 1990 update by TIPS that argues that some 5,075 tg of material would burn in a total US-Soviet nuclear war, as analysis by Small of blueprints and real buildings returned a maximum of 1,475 tg of material that could be burned, assuming that all the available combustible material was actually ignited. 147. Although Kearney was of the opinion that future more accurate models would indicate there will be even smaller reductions in temperature, including future potential models that did not so readily accept that firestorms would.
Yes, I forgot to stop. This one is really long, really long. So I need to stop and charge my camcorder. So and hit the early evening news in 10 minutes. So I will watch that. So let's charge my camcorder. So maybe I'm not reading more tonight because this is too long. I do not remember all this because I'm very sleepy. I'm sleepy my whole day. So this one I not remember much, but I like to read it. I don't know what it is before I finish reading. But this one is too many information. I not remember all this, but and I'm very, very sleepy. But I have to stop because the camcorder is out of power and the video splits in a few minutes. So we keep it in 6 parts. But I have to charge my camcorder. I don't know if I like to spend my Saturday evening read this. I don't think so. I will watch YouTube or watch a movie in the television.